This podcast is part of the Spoon Podcast Network, home of smart conversations that feed your mind.
Okay, well, hello everybody. We have a very special show today for any of you who love olive oil, or shall I say olive oils, plural. Welcome to Watch What You Eat with Carolyn O'Neill. Of course, we're watching trends. We're telling you what to watch out for to protect your budget and your body. And we like to watch. We like to watch beautiful foods come together, all the ingredients that make us happy from the best in food, nutrition, and cuisine. My guest today is David Garcia Aguirre, and he is with Corto Olive Company, and he is in California, in Lodi. Now, I got to meet David when I was visiting Corto in California in the fall of 2024, in September, and I learned a lot. And I knew a lot already about olive oil, okay? I visited a lot of olive oil production around the world. But David, you were able to tell us a little bit about what makes California special, and then of course what makes Corto special when you are literally seeking the best for olive oil. So first of all, set the scene. We are talking in April 2025. What's going on outside the windows there with in the groves and in production?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be on your show. Yeah, it's a very important time for olives right now. We're just about to enter bloom. That's so we'll have all these beautiful flowers here pretty soon, and those little flowers will turn into small little fruits, and eventually those fruits will produce oil, and we'll do everything we can to get all that goodness out of the olives.
And one thing that I think it might have been the first thing that came out of anybody's mouth when we stepped on the beautiful grounds there was that you're making fruit juice. Essentially, you're making fruit juice there. Now, explain that to everybody, David.
Yeah, so I mean, technically, obviously, oil is not juice, but fruit juice is the right way to think about olive oil production, and specifically, and this is going to be the theme for the whole show, freshness. When you think about juice, you think about the freshness of the fruit, you think about the freshness of the juice, and olive oil that's exactly the right way to think about olive oil.
Another thing that we learned, and everybody, there are enemies. Olive oil has many enemies, but the three biggies are light, heat, and air. They are not friends, they are enemies. Tell us a little bit about how that can really destroy the quality of olive oil.
Sure. So I think the very first thing to understand, back to this juice analogy, is that olive oil is a perishable product. Oils oxidize, and you can't stop it, right? All you can ever do is put as much energy as you can into slowing that down. And the way you do that is by eliminating light, heat, and air. If you flip that, anytime it comes exposed to light, heat, and air, then the rate of oxidation goes up. So your oils will go rancid a lot faster.
This is why, when you think about buying olive oil, it's usually in a dark green bottle. But you at Corto have gone pretty much one step further than the dark green bottle, although you can buy them in that. But tell us a little bit about it, because of course, folks, the olive oils from Corto are so incredibly delicious and prized that they are the prized possession of top chefs who use them. And I understand there even was a cameo of your Truly olive oil in the box, which you're going to talk about in a moment, in the hit TV show The Bear. And the chef had it right there in the mise en place, the Corto olive oil Truly brand. So this is what you call a flavor lock box. And I might put in some pictures of that so people can see it in our video version.
Sure. So, I think what makes Corto different, I shouldn't say different from anyone, but anybody who cares about actually getting fresh oil to their customers understands that it's extremely hard to do. And if you don't start at the very end and define, like, okay, I want every one of my customers who are chefs, right? I want all of my chefs who use my product to have a super fresh oil. If you don't build the business from that point backward, you're not going to be able to do it. Because at the end of the day, the hardest part isn't, the sexy part is making olive oil, right? It's like making wine. That's what we focus on. But that's not the hardest part. The hardest part is actually taking that oil you made, keeping it fresh through storage and distribution and on shelves, all the way to the point when you actually get it, when a customer actually gets it. So Flavor Lock Box is the best package we found to be able to deliver that fresh last drop of oil. It's essentially, it's a bag and box. People have seen it in wine, and the wine industry knows this well. It's a wonderful product. It's a wonderful package to keep things fresh because it keeps away light, it keeps out air, and as you use the box, the bag collapses, so you don't ever get any air penetration, and it actually helps with heat as well. So it's a really great vessel if you care about freshness.
Yeah, and I know that when we were in the production facility, it was fun seeing all this come together, and then the bags filling up and dropping into the box, or how I forget what happened first, second, or third, but it was just like, wow. And then there was the little spigot. And again, any of you who like keep your little, wine in a box in the fridge and hit the spigot, and it's amazing like how much is in there, and it's good to the last drop because it's not being oxidized. So that's the same thing with the olive oil.
Yeah, so a really easy way to understand it is, once you open a bottle,
Hmm.
oxygen gets in. So you probably have, 4 to 8 weeks, somewhere in there, before you get to the point where that oil is rancid, right? With the Flavor Lock box, once you dispense the first time, it doesn't matter. You have a year. You have the full shelf of life of that product. It'll stay fresh through the whole duration because it's never exposed to light, heat, or air.
Oh my gosh, I just thought of something. I would imagine that just about everybody keeps their olive oil close to where they're cooking, right? Right next to the stove, right where you can grab it to saute, to drizzle, to swirl. What should we be doing with our olive oils at home to really respect them, I guess, and respect ourselves?
Yeah, well, and I love the way you open the show, right? It's bang for buck. Why do we buy olive oil? Most of us buy olive oil for flavor and health. Those are the two main drivers, right? What makes olive oil healthy is all these amazing polyphenols and antioxidants, all these cool compounds that are in olive oil. The better way to say that is those compounds are in fresh olive oil. They're the very first things that go away when it's exposed to light, heat, and air. So as we're thinking about our kitchens, you have to really come at it from that point of view. So like what a lot of our customers will do, chefs or our at-home chefs that maybe buy a 3-liter bag and box that we have, they'll keep that in the pantry away from light, heat, and air, and they'll just dispense what they need, right? And that'll keep the oil fresh that way.
Okay. Um, as the bottle gets sort of less and less and less in there, I would imagine there's more air getting in, right?
Yep.
So,
There's more air to volume, right? So it actually oxidizes
so
faster and
does it
faster.
make any sense to keep pouring it into like a smaller container?
I mean, yes. There's also the value proposition of convenience, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a rabbit hole for sure. But at the end of the day, like just, really taking care of the big things, not keeping it near your stove where it's really hot, not keeping it exposed to light. Light's one of the worst things. Even in dark glass, light gets through. Some light gets through, right? So on it's really about, doing the major things and balancing that convenience part.
David is a master miller at Corto Olive Oil, and that means, of course, you care about the freshness, but it also means you're a bit of an expert on rancidity. Okay, just gonna say, when we were there, we did, of course, a taste test of a variety different, like we blind test, blind tasting, essentially. My mom said years ago she did not like olive oil at all. Now, she's Scottish, so maybe that wasn't something, in her little wheelhouse there, but then I tasted it. No wonder. Okay, I think she bought, that bottle of olive oil like a decade ago or something. But what is rancidity? How do we detect it? How do you taste an olive oil? What's going through your mind, through your taste buds?
So it's actually very interesting. UC Davis did a study, I believe it was like 2013, something like that, where they did a consumer preference study. And blind, they gave people an ultra fresh, high quality, really healthy, awesome olive oil. And they gave them an oil that was rancid. And they found that about 60, I was like high 60s, 67, 68% of people actually preferred the rancid oil. So what does that tell us? That tells us that there's so much rancidity prevalent in our food supply that a lot of us actually recognize it as a positive flavor. And I know it's wild. So the challenge for us is we have to get our story out there with the tasting, right? So the easiest way for me to conceptualize what a fresh oil should be like is it's a fruit juice. So you should expect it to smell and taste like things that are natural from nature, grasses, herbs, fruits, right? If it smells like, we always crayons or Play-Doh, or I like to say, is it garden or is it garage, right? If it smells like paint solvent, something's probably wrong with it, right? But like really, it should remind you of your garden. And at the end of the day, if you get that beautiful green aroma and it instantly takes you back to grasses and herbs and things like that, then you probably have a good oil, a fresh oil.
Wow, that is a great description. I think another confusing point besides people liking the rancidity because they just didn't know any better. Um, how do you like to explain to people? I know we have so many different terms. Like there's extra virgin, there is premium olive oil. Even in the grocery store, you'll see light olive oil. And of course, for a long time, a lot of people thought, oh, it's lower in calories. It's light, So kind of, I don't know. Give us the 411 on that.
Sure. So I'll preface that by saying this is a very exciting time in olive oil. And I say that because there's a new method of planting, some modern planting methods that allow us to scale ultra premium olive oil for the first time in olive oil history, right? So traditionally, when you'd have a really nice oil, it would be from you're visiting a small mill in Spain or Italy or California, and they'd have a couple of barrels of really nice oil, right? But when you go to the supermarket, you would get something completely different, right? And that's because there's this commodity world of bulk, massive, commodity olive oils. And then there's this world of really premium boutique olive oils that made olive oil famous. For the first time, we're actually able to scale that boutique. So we're able to actually get fresh, high quality olive oil into restaurants and on the shelf. So a lot of the extra lights and virgin and extra virgin is just it's old baggage that comes with the product. Extra virgin is supposed to be the highest grade. By definition, all an olive oil needs in order to be extra virgin is to have no defects, nothing wrong with it. To me, that's like getting a D in school, right? It's like, great, there's nothing wrong with it, but is there anything great about it? Is it loaded with polyphenols? Is it healthy? Is it grassy? Is it wonderful? Is it going to make my food better? That's the AB, world of olive oil. And I feel like we're just barely starting to have that conversation. That's what everyone thinks they're paying for, but that's not actually what they're getting.
Wow. So just by saying, "Oh, extra virgin olive oil," that could mean a whole gamut of things. They could have gotten a D essentially in the class. Now, you also worked at the USDA on helping to work on crafting new olive oil standards. Um, I would imagine there are companies that go above and beyond those standards, and there's those who barely make the standards. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it was the CDFA. So one of the things that differentiates California from the rest of the world is in California, the industry came together and put together an olive oil standard for extra virgin that is the strictest legal standard in the world. So I do want to quantify that though. That's like we're getting a C now, right? Or a C minus. I love, and what I promise our customers is that A and B level oil, right? And at the end of the day, I think that's really what the customers want. They just don't, it's very hard to navigate this because you can't open every bottle and taste it, right? Um, so I think, long story short, it's really important that people understand that the best tool we have to understand the quality of oil, unfortunately, we all have it, it's our nose, right? And it's tasting, and it's really that green grassy aroma until we get A, B, C level designation that just doesn't exist right now.
Well, we sure know that there are wines that get a D, and then there's wines that get an A. So I'm glad that you're reaching out for the A in the class of olive oil. Back to the olives themselves. Um, it's not just one kind of olive, right? That goes into olive oil. Tell us a little bit about the I guess, the varieties that make the best olive oils, or just different flavors, just like there's Cabernet Sauvignon, there's Pinot Noir, etc.
Sure. So that's the fun part, right? That's the part that we all think we're getting into. So, you know, I like to use the analogy of Cab and Pinot. So Cabs and Pinots are very different. You know, they're both red wines. Cabs tend to have big, full body, high tannins, a lot of very direct, fruity flavors. Pinots tend to be more nuanced, delicate, maybe balanced, right? If that difference between a Cab and a Pinot is, let's say, 6 inches on a ruler, the difference between olive varieties can be 2 feet.
Wow.
You can start with like an Oscolano, for example, which is a table olive variety grown in California. You extract the oil from that and it smells like cantaloupes, right? And I don't mean get your nose in there and like you get some cantaloupe. I mean, it smells like someone's cutting cantaloupes, right? You get a piqual, a really nice early harvest piqual, and it smells like tomato leaves, like you break a tomato leaf. Arbequina is another popular variety that's really grassy. Koroniki can be like green banana. So you actually have a wide variation when the oils are fresh and high quality. None of that matters. If you're trying to get that on a supermarket shelf, it's going to be very hard to get.
Okay, well, with wines, we have blends. Do we have blends in olive oil too?
We do. Yeah, like our Truly, which is our big flagship, is a blend of Arbequina and Arbesana, which are two Spanish varieties, and Koroniki. And we do that to kind of to blend a very versatile oil that can be used in anything from desserts to soups and salads and finishing, right?
As a registered dietitian, of course, I'm just absolutely focused on food, nutrition, and cuisine, which we're talking about here. And we all know olive oil is good for us. We keep hearing it, but I was just reviewing some of the research, David, and it's like, what doesn't it do? I mean, it seems to impact our health in so many ways. Of course, and you don't even have to consume that much. I mean, there was a study that was in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. So you need just a little bit more than a half a teaspoon a day to reduce your heart attack risk, your cardiovascular disease risk. And then it goes on and on that it helps everything from, your joint health to protecting, like your emotional health. And it really is an incredible ingredient. Now, we know you just can't eat I always talk about how it's the company it keeps, whatever it is. So you can't just like pour olive oil all over the top of let's say a ribeye steak, and it cancels out maybe the cholesterol raising actions of the fat in the really fatty red meats. But what excites you personally about working in a field where you're creating a product that's really a boon for people's taste and health?
Yeah, and I think too that you didn't touch on that are really important are brain health and gut, like microbiota health. Um, I I think what's one of the most interesting parts about research in olive oil right now is that, and this is very recent, I'd say maybe in the last 5 years, medical research is starting to distinguish between fresh olive oils that have high polyphenols and olive oils that don't. And what it's doing is it's making us understand that the freshness of olive oil and the levels of polyphenols matter. So if you truly are doing this for health, then you can't just go buy off of a label. Like the oils you're buying, you have to make sure that they're fresh oils. I think that the what excites me the most is two things. Number one, anytime I don't believe in superfoods, first of all. Like, I just think that's a ridiculous thing. Like, everything as part of something, everything can be, done well, it can be very healthy. So, but I think olive oil as part of a healthy diet is definitely going to play a key role. Um, and the other part that I find really interesting is it's actually a cultural thing. So if you look the Mediterranean countries, if you average how much olive oil they use per person, it's probably around 9 liters per person per year. In the US, we're just over 1. So a lot of times people ask me, well, what are they doing? Drinking it? Like, how do we go from 1 to 2 or 3 even? And I think that the part that's exciting about that is that, like, it's the way we think about the relationship with olive oil and food. You can use it on everything. And I mean that, everything. It could be ice cream, chocolate cake, all the way to traditional uses like pasta, finishing pizzas, you can use it in everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's an ingredient in everything, and you can use it for everything, which means that you can cook, you can saute, you can do whatever you want with it, right? So I think it's just this great multi-purpose ingredient that hopefully will become more of a staple in our diet going forward.
Yes, and let's not forget a little olive oil, like, under the eyes. It's a very important
Exactly.
component in soaps and cosmetics, and, I'm sure some of those leaders maybe that are being, used in the Mediterranean, is also helping to keep them look younger longer too, and I'm glad you mentioned, the phytonutrients and the freshness of the olive oil mattering because the study we talked about a second ago that was actually done, by the folks at Harvard School of Public Health, they found that it didn't really matter like the grade of olive oil, with let's say some of the heart health stuff. But when it came to the other things, the plant compounds, the antioxidants that are really easy to destroy through, again, those enemies, light, heat, right, and oxygen. So, again, another reason to really go for the good stuff and the freshest olive oil, not just for your taste, but for your health. And all right, so another fun recipe that y'all are doing, which again to me is taste and health, is okay. Let me get this word right. Agrumato, which is you crush with the olives other things that might grow with them or in the same season.
Yeah, so agrumato for us is research and development. I mean, that's really what it is, right? It's like this fun thing that we do. We don't even distribute it to our restaurants. It's only available online. It's done in very small batches, but the process is exactly what you described. So a lot of people do infusions. They'll take garlic oil or garlic extract and put it in oil, right? Uh, in our opinion, that misses a very amazing opportunity when you actually like we make a Calabrian chili, when we run fresh Calabrian chilies with fresh olive oil through our equipment, this incredible like biochemistry happens, right? Where we produce all of these amazing flavors and compounds that you can't get any other way. So the resulting Calabrian chili oil is extremely complex and is loaded with a lot of those same phytosterols and phytonutrients. And it just makes this amazing food that you can't get in any other method.
And you do a lemon one too, I think.
We've done several. We've done so far. We've done Calabrian chili. We did a yuzu. We did a
Use
lemongrass basil, and what did we do this year? I'm blanking.
but
So every year we launch at least one new product. Sometimes we do two, and we're R&Ding every year. We're R&Ding like 20 different flavors,
boy, you're just
20
having a
different
lot of fun
ingredients.
over there, Corto, and we're all going to benefit from it. Can we go back to the trees for a minute?
Sure.
Let's go back out there to the grove, not the orchard. Uh, I learned that you're harvesting also the olives in a very different way than they may do traditionally and broadly in the other olive oil producing regions, Spain, Greece, Italy, I could go on. It's a little bit different. They wait for something called abscission, where it ripens so much that it loosens from the tree and they just shake it and they fall down. Why are you not doing that? And what are you doing instead?
So, yeah, so that's a great technical term. So, as I mentioned, olives are a fruit. Let's talk about another fruit for a minute because I think this really helps conceptualize. Let's talk about an orange. Let's say we have an orange tree in our backyard. And let's say the time of year is late December, early January, whenever it is that your oranges in your area get perfect, right? And you have this beautiful orange that's at the exact right time for picking. And you walk back there and you pull the orange off the tree and you juice it. That orange juice is going to be amazing, right? Okay. Let's say that on your way out to that orange, you got distracted and you forgot about your orange. And December turned into January, turned into February, turned into March, turned into April. What's happening to that orange on the tree? Right? It's going through a ripening process. It gets overripe. It starts to shrivel. It turns black. It starts producing alcohols. It starts fermenting, starts producing alcohols. And at some point, that orange drops off the tree naturally, right? That's where your technical term comes in. The level of abscission for that stem gets to a point where it drops off, right? so the fruit drops off. Now, can you still juice that orange? You can, right? It's
Yeah,
just not going to
well,
be very good. So why do I use this analogy? Because the vast majority of olive oils available in the US come from olives that are like that second orange. Because without modern technologies, if you don't have this modern infrastructure, you can't, the only way to harvest the fruit at the right time is by hand. And obviously, we can't, that's not scalable, right? You're only going to be feeding a very small portion, local usually, right? So some Californians, some Italians, some Spaniards. So what had to happen traditionally is they would have to let the olives hang on the tree until they were at the point when they were about to drop. And then they could go in and shake the trunks and get all the fruit off. The problem, as we know now, is the fruit has undergone so much ripening, there are no polyphenols left. There are no green flavors, beautiful aromas. Fermentations have occurred, so now you have defects. So what these modern planting methods allow us to do is mechanize the harvest at the right time of year, which is October, November for the Northern Hemisphere, so we can produce those premium oils at some kind of scale.
so you're grabbing them from the tree when the result will be the absolute freshest, best tasting, and as we've just learned, more healthful because it's the phytonutrients are there and the other plant nutrients. Well, that's a good idea, and I'm glad you figured out how to do that. I'm really happy with that. I have a question. What are some of your favorite ways? And I've got one I'll share in a second, but what's some of your favorite ways to enjoy olive oil, David?
Well, as I mentioned, my whole reality changed when I realized the whole you can use it on, in, and for everything, right? So I just went on this adventurous kick and tried it on everything. And it on 99% of things is good. What people don't realize actually, and this is an interesting one if you're a nutritionist, is the polyphenols that are in olive oil. They don't just protect the olive oil when you're cooking, they protect other ingredients from oxidizing as well. So there's a really interesting study where they finished a pizza with olive oil and they measured the levels of lycopene in the tomatoes or actually they used it in the sauce and they measured the levels of lycopene and other things in tomatoes. And they found that the oils that used a premium high polyphenol olive oil actually had more flavor and more phyto compounds from the other ingredients as well. So not only does it add its own flavor, it makes flavor of other things better as well. Now, to your question, I think my big go-to, and this is going to sound super simple, but I use it on popcorn a lot, especially the agrumados. I just love like either truly or like a Calabrian chili over popcorn with salt. Super simple, very flavorful, very healthy.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm coming back at you with one of my favorite olive oil memories. And I was in London and I had olive oil ice cream
Yeah, good.
that was topped with a little caviar.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Interesting. So you have
It
like
was soft
umami and
serve,
sweet.
and it was soft
Mm.
serve ice cream. It happened to be at the Chiltern Firehouse. I know they're closed right now. Speaking of pizza, they had a little fire in their pizza oven. Hopefully they'll be back. I love the Chiltern Firehouse and all those chefs. But it was a soft serve olive oil vanilla ice cream, and it had caviar on top. So you know that taste of when you have like caramel and salt? So it was
Mhm.
like the sweetness of the ice cream, olive oil ice cream, with the saltiness of the caviar. And trust me, it was an adventure that just blew your mind in flavors and intensity and just the depth of all kind of crazy happiness.
Ooh, I love that. We actually serve a vanilla gelato with a drizzle of olive oil and just sea salt to kind of capture that same spirit. Yours sounds way more interesting though.
I think you need to get some of the California produced caviar,
Caviar,
maybe. And
exactly. Yep.
I
It's
know you
very
love a
close
little
to
R
us.
and D. I think this might be a kind of a showstopper with the team there.
Oh, that's
Well, we have
fun.
learned, just to wrap up, olive oil secrets, from David. And thank you so much. First of all, as you said, freshness, freshness, freshness. And that means having a beautiful product to begin with, protecting your beautiful product. And who knew that olive oil was also protecting the phytonutrients, and actually it helps the fat soluble vitamins be more easily bioavailable. I don't know why you don't want to call it a superfood, David. I'm team superfood for olive oil, that's for sure. But thank you so much. And I will have notes on all of this, of course, in our show notes. I appreciate it. I also have my bottle, which will show up in,
Oh,
of
great.
the olive oil blend that I got to make at Corto. And I called mine for some reason Abso Corto. It was absolutely delicious, and I learned so much. So,
Well,
all right,
thank you so
everybody.
much.
Thank you so much, David. We have to have you back on to find out how everything's going out there and what you're coming up with next. But thank you for listening to Watch What You Eat with Carolyn O'Neill, seeking the very best in food, nutrition, and cuisine. And of course, you're always invited to add Watch What You Eat to your podcast menu.